When I think about my own upbringing and how religious community in my life made a difference, I think the benefits of faith in society, in my mind, for our discussion, I think thoughts today are both communal and personal, right? I think Kathleen talked a lot about that. We know that community is very important, coming together. Scripture tells us, Hebrew scripture tells us, that God said it's not good for man to be alone, right? We have partnerships, we have commonalities, shared value systems, and I think faith gives us those things, and it causes us to look upward, outward, and also inward as it relates to our connecting together.
I think it's a really excellent point, because I think a lot of times the discussion around religion focuses on like the potential for division. Right. Does that make sense? That there's a lot of concern that in religious schools might be teaching things that we're not necessarily comfortable with as a society more generally. But I think all of our experience probably tells us that doesn't seem to be our lived experience, that actually religion brings people together. Why is that? Any thoughts related to that?
Well, I mean, I think, and we experienced this in the debate over school choice and education in a very real and intense way sometimes. I think first I would say that one of the answers to that pushback against supporting religious schools is there is no such thing as a values neutral school. So the only difference between a faith-based school and maybe a traditional public school is we are clear and explicit about those values. And I think that that's a really important. Neutrality, I think, is a false promise. And then also, it is interesting to see that faith-based schools are able to cultivate that sense of diversity and tolerance. And I don't know for sure, it's hard to know exactly where the causal line is drawn, but it does feel like it's connected to at least two things. One, to cultivating that sense of humility, which I think is an underestimated virtue, right? So if you have a sense of humility, you kind of understand in a deep, personal, and human way that there is something bigger out there, which it brings a sense of wonder, and it kind of draws you into difference, I think, in a way that you wouldn't otherwise be drawn into. So I think that's one. And then I think just, again, there is this sense of we're bringing together people on a shared project, but those people will have different experiences by definition.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, most faith traditions, no matter what it is, they encourage service to others, right? This on all levels. One, I wrote down a couple things, and secondly, faith emphasizes the care and concern for those less fortunate than ourselves. I think the New Testament scripture, Matthew 25, it talks about looking out for the least of these, people who may be disenfranchised or disinherited. And so I think through faith, as we adhere to these principles, we find ourselves reaching out, right, looking outward. I would say also, thirdly, faith encourages shared communal responsibilities that benefit the group. So it's kind of like household chores. Everybody has a part to play, and in return, the group, everyone benefits from it. And finally, as terms of the communal benefit, I would say faith helps to shape our value system in society. It provides a communal moral compass. When I think about that, I think about the Ten Commandments in Exodus. When the prophet Moses comes down from the mountain, he gives that community these 10 rules. If you look at that in Hebrew scripture, 5 of the 10 rules are communal. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery, honor thy father and thy mother. These values are outward focusing and communal. And so I think we definitely need to have some shared community moral values, and faith across the board, no matter what faith it is, what faith tradition it is, kind of share some of these values that I just mentioned.